With us now on this big night, final night of the Republican convention here in Cleveland, Congressman from Louisiana, Republican House Majority Whip Steve Scalise. Congressman, welcome.
Good to be with you.
Just tell us your reaction to what Senator Cruz did.
Well, I think everybody in the arena was listening real intently as the speech built up, and then it got to a point where I think everybody was ready for him to finally say, okay, and I'll support Donald Trump to be our next president. And then you could just feel it that, they could tell that he wasn't going to say that, and the crowd was trying to help encourage him to do it. When he didn't, I think at that point it really was a lost opportunity for Senator Cruz. But at the end of the day, you could just feel that the crowd is unifying more and more each day. I can see it just from talking to Ted Cruz supporters that are here as delegates and just volunteers and activists. They're on board. Almost all of them are on board for Donald Trump and Mike Pence. And so people recognize what's at stake. This isn't about one person. This is about the best direction of our country. And I think we're going to hear a lot of that tonight from Donald Trump himself.
The media for both parties always emphasizes disunity. It's a better story than unity. Ted Cruz isn't the only one here who's not for Donald Trump. John Kasich's not for Donald Trump. Mitt Romney, the Bushes. What's your case to make to say the party is united enough despite those glaring absences?
What's important is where are their supporters? Because if you saw, it was a spirited presidential primary, 17 candidates. No matter who you wanted to see in a president, you probably had 2 or 3 choices. And if your first or second choice didn't get there, the real question is going to be on November 8th, are you going to vote for Donald Trump or for Hillary Clinton? And I think whether it's Kasich supporters, whether it's Cruz's or Bush's, but you look at Scott Walker, who endorsed last night. You look at Marco Rubio, who endorsed last night. The supporters of those candidates who want a Republican president are going to vote for Donald Trump and Mike Pence because they know what's at stake. It's not just about the economy and the direction of the country. It's about the Supreme Court. If you want a constitutional direction, then you can just look at the people that Donald Trump laid out as his choices to replace Antonin Scalia, great constitutional conservatives, versus a Ruth Bader Ginsburg approach, and you know what Hillary Clinton's going to do. So people know what's at stake, and ultimately it's the voters that are going to make the decision. And I see them moving more and more every day to Donald Trump. And by the end of tonight, I think people recognize we've got a ticket. Next week, they're going to lay out their case of bigger government, more taxes, Bernie Sanders socialism. The contrast couldn't be greater.
Let me ask you this question about Trump. You said about Cruz. You said it was a missed opportunity. Others have been much harsher to him over the course of the past 24 hours. Do you think he's done himself, Cruz, long-term damage in terms of his future within the party and the conservative movement? Well,
I think ultimately, do voters want to see a divided party coming out of this? If you're a Republican, you surely don't, because we've got a nominee now, and it's Donald Trump. And no matter who your candidate was, Donald Trump got more Republican voters in the primary in the history of our party. So it's a lost opportunity because he really could have unified and gotten a lot of support personally himself.
My question was whether you think he's done himself long-term political damage.
Time will tell there, but I think most people are going to support Donald Trump regardless of what he said. But I think if he would have said, I support Donald Trump, it would have shown, he's the bigger person and he's ready to move on. But again, it's not going to be about what an individual does. This is about the direction of the country.
So one of the things Paul Manafort said at the beginning of the week was that the main goal of this convention was to show a different side of Donald Trump to American voters, to broaden his appeal. It's not just the Trump that we've become familiar with on stage, but show another side. In the 3 nights we've had so far of the convention, have you seen another side of Donald Trump that you weren't aware of before?
Yeah, you've seen, of course, from his children who have already spoken. Ivanka's going to speak tonight. Probably his best spokesperson is Ivanka, but each of his children that have spoken. What you've seen the whole campaign trail is people say, wow, he's really raised some great kids. And no matter what you think about his policies or about his tone, you've got to be a really good person if you've raised these kind of kids, and they've been a benefit to show the inside of what he's really like as a person. You've heard people talk about his leadership style as a business leader.
Right. What's one personal quality of Trump that you learned that you didn't know he had in the last 3 days that you now know about?
I don't know if it's what I didn't know in the last days, but it's what you see more and more about is how much of a fighter he is, how much of a person that wants to go out and turn this country around. He's talked passionately in the last few days about why he got into this race. Right. It was a tough decision for him, but he's truly concerned about the direction of our country, like so many of us are. And again, he's going to present a real contrast tonight between where he wants to go, how to make America great again, versus where Hillary Clinton will want to take our country.